Hello folks, I'm here today with the Suzuki S-Cross, the new Suzuki S-Cross. This little 1.4 turbo petrol engine with 48 volt mild hybrid technology puts out 129 PS of power and gets you from 0 to 62 in 10.2 seconds. Now, while it's not the most interesting looking of car designs, it's certainly not offensive in any way. It just sort of blends into the background a little bit. But obviously the way a car looks is massively subjective, so let me know what you think of the styling in the comments. So these cars start from about 25 grand. The one I'm reviewing today is about 31,000. This is in ultra spec. Now, all of the new S-Cross cars have a very generous level of trim. Ultra gives you extra things like the 360 camera, built-in sat-nav and the panoramic sunroof. But even if you go for the lower level trim, you should be reasonably happy with what's on offer. When it comes to boot space, we've got 430 litres here, which lags slightly behind one or two of the competitors, but it's very flexible boot space and it's a really good shape and size. So this floor can be adjusted up or down. There's also space underneath that floor, if you have it in the utmost position, to store your parcel shelf away. All in all, not the biggest of boots, but certainly quite flexible and very easy to get large items in and out of. The first thing to say about the interior in this car is it's very well laid out. Everything's fairly logical. You've got physical dials and knobs for the air conditioning controls, a proper gear selector, and what's this? A handbrake. Wow. The infotainment system, although very functional, and in this particular model it comes with sat-nav, it comes with Bluetooth, it comes with DAB radio, it's got Apple CarPlay, it's got Android Auto, everything else you might possibly want. It's very laggy. The screen quality is reasonable, but it is quite laggy to use. Very usable, but not the best on the market by a long stretch. And unfortunately, no physical volume knob. We have got some touchy buttons. Not the end of the world, but there we go. Has got a very good reversing camera and sort of top-down satellite view kind of camera. The dials and information here are all very straightforward, nice and clear. Steering wheel could be a little bit chunkier, but leather covered, nice feel to it. Good choice of functions, all sort of where they should be. Not too confusing there. Got a little cluster of buttons here just to the right of the wheel. They help you sort of engage or disengage some of the safety features. Down here we've got the four-wheel drive select modes. So you've got snow, sport, you can push it and have it in auto, and you've also got the option to lock it up. You've also got heated seats in this model and a USB socket down here, as well as a little cubby in there. In terms of the interior quality, the seats are quite nice. They're part leather in this. The cloth element feels very, very good quality. As for the rest of the materials, meh. The plastic's on the door card, down here in this central unit, glove box lid, all that kind of stuff. It all feels a bit cheap, if I'm being honest. Having said that, as a whole, the cabin's not a bad place to be. If sunroofs are your thing, then the ultra spec is the one you should go for, because it's got a ginormous panoramic sunroof that goes back a long, long way. Now, when it comes to sitting in the back of the car, the first thing you notice is it's quite an upright seating position, and there's plenty of leg room. So the driver's seat's in my normal position, and there's some room to put your feet, which is great. Now in the back here, there are no vents for the rear passengers, and nor are there any USB chargers or anything like that, which is a bit of a disappointment in what you have to think is possibly classed as a family car. Now, despite the floor not being flat, the middle seat's very usable. You could get 3 adults in here, although the centre console will bash the middle seat user in the knees a little bit, I would suggest. The other thing to note in here is the headroom's not very good. If I go back to the normal position, I'm only 5'9" and a bit, and there's probably about that. So if you're 6 foot or above, it's going to be a little bit of a squeeze in here, and you might find yourself slumping down a little bit. So one of the benefits for this panoramic sunroof, even if you don't have it open, at the moment I've just got the cover back, is in the rear, in the back here, it makes it really nice and light and bright and airy. Considering there's not a ton of headroom, I'd imagine it could feel a little bit enclosed in here without that. So again, another thumbs up for the ultra spec really. So is this car actually any good to drive? And the simple answer is yes. The more complex answer will take me a little bit of time to explain. So sit comfortably. The steering's very light on this car, okay? That makes it very easy to chuck around in town and to park and for all manner of things that you might be doing with a family car of this kind. The drivetrain is brilliant, by the way. It's obviously quite a small engine, it's got turbo on it, it also benefits from a little bit of mild hybrid power, but it's really quite nippy and quite immediate. There's no real lag when you touch on the accelerator, and it's not a fast car by any means. You know, 10.2 seconds to 62 is bang average, but the way it delivers that power is very well suited to sort of driving around town, nipping in and out of side streets. It really is a bit of a joy, and when you're doing that town driving, it really feels like a much smaller car than it actually is. It's a nice thing, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. Despite the fact that it's not the most interesting car to look at, the interior's not the most interesting or the best quality, it's a very enjoyable thing to have, and it's really easy to live with. There's no diesel version of this car, but you don't need it. The MPG officially in this car is 46.3 on a combined cycle. Been driving it around town and I'm getting 44 MPG from it. So I think on a run you'd easily get 50. And when you consider it's four-wheel drive, automatic, that's not sluggish, I think that's quite impressive. Some cars offer refinement, some cars offer luxury, some cars offer a sporty drive. Some cars are just a bit quirky and interesting. This is not really any of those things, but what it is a brilliant hack really. You just get in it, bomb around, it's never going to let you down, and it somehow manages to put a little bit of a smile on your face. Now the car has a ton of safety and assistance systems, but as I said before, you've got these buttons down here to the side of the steering wheel, and they're very easy to disengage if you find any of them offensive. I have to say they all work fairly well. There's only the odd time where the forward collision thing's been a bit intrusive when I've sort of come up to a junction or a roundabout and there's been a car parked in front. But aside from that, everything sort of works fairly seamlessly. Now the stereo system's good, if slightly unastounding, but the aerial signal doesn't seem very good. I've been losing signal from the radio in areas where I wouldn't usually, and I can only really put that down to the strength of the aerial signal. The sat-nav is okay, but if you're intending to use this car for sat-nav, I would suggest you just plug in your phone and use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, because they're just better and easier than the built-in system in this, and that can be said of about 90% of cars on the road, in all fairness. So this car's got rivals aplenty, hasn't it? You're looking at things like the Peugeot 3008, you're looking at things even like the 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎, the MG HS would be a strong rival to this one. So if we look at the bad points for this car, it's really just that the interior feels quite cheap in places, and the rear cabin could be better designed. You don't feel like they've put tons of thought into the needs of the rearmost passengers. The other thing I have to say that's a tiny bit of a letdown is the infotainment system. It's perfectly usable, it's got a good quality screen, but there's no physical volume knob, which always annoys me, and it's just a bit laggy and slow to respond. But once again, plug in your phone and pretty much things are solved. A good point to this car will be, firstly, the boot. It's not the biggest boot in its class by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really flexible and really usable. It's a nice, easy opening to get things in and out of, and you can choose to have the completely flat floor or have a little bit of a drop. I personally like a little bit of a drop because it stops your bags flying everywhere when you go shopping. I think it offers a great blend of performance and efficiency. You know, 45 mpg in the real world in a car like this is very good, especially when you consider it's a proper four-wheel drive system and it's got an automatic gearbox in it. The panoramic sunroof is a real victory for this car. It lets so much light into the cabin, and considering headroom's not the best in the back, it just opens up the space really well. And you really have to say the standard features that come with this car, even the base spec model, very generous and much better than quite a number of its competitors. So how will I feel about this car going back? Well, I'll be quite upset, to be honest, because it's just such an easy thing to live with. It's not something that I look back at when I've parked it, or sit and look out of my window wistfully at while it's sat on the drive. Not at all. It does nothing for me personally in terms of the sort of aesthetics of it, but as a thing to live with and drive and use, it's brilliant. Just about every part of this car, every facet of this car, you could sum up by saying it's functionality rather than flashiness, and that's a really great thing at times. not everyone wants a flash sort of premium car. Some people want a really functional car that's never going to let them down, but does everything really well. And for those people, this is one to have a think about. I must admit that when this car first turned up on my drive, I was almost immediately disinterested. Then I got in it and drove it, and I've loved it more every minute that I've driven it. Thanks ever so much for watching, folks. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. I'm sure you've already done it, but if you haven't, give yourself a slap on the wrist and then press that thumbs up button. And please subscribe if you haven't already done so. Lots of great car content on the channel, including lots more of these car reviews. If you've enjoyed this one, go back and look at my back catalogue of car reviews. There are plenty. And finally, if you'd like to see the latest lease deals on a Suzuki S-Cross, click on the link in the video description. That will take you directly to 𝘖𝐿GRIP, which is a comparison site for car leasing. It helps support the channel if you use it, and you'll see all the latest deals on 𝘖𝐿GRIP at the time you click that link. It's a real-time link that will always be updated with the latest information. Thanks again for watching, folks. Hope to see you next time.